In the middle of the night, Anna, a middle-aged woman living alone in New York City, accidentally witnesses a horrifying scene while spying on her neighbors' lives. She sees a female neighbor named Jane being murdered in her own home. But strangely, after the police investigate, they confirm that Jane is alive and well. However, the Jane who is alive is not the same as the one Anna remembers. So, what on earth is going on? And why does Anna spend her nights secretly watching her neighbors' lives? In today's recap, we bring you a suspenseful thriller titled The Woman in the Window, directed by British filmmaker Joe Wright, known for Atonement, Pride and Prejudice, and Darkest Hour. The story begins with the condition of the protagonist, Anna. She suffers from severe agoraphobia. Whenever she is in an open space, she experiences extreme panic, sometimes even fainting. Because of this, Anna spends her days confined at home, never going out. Even simple errands like buying daily necessities or taking out the trash are handled by delivery workers. To kill the long, boring hours, Anna often spies on her neighbors. Their trivial daily lives become the seasoning of her otherwise dull existence. And it is precisely because of this habit that she ends up witnessing Jane's apparent murder. Anna and Jane were not familiar with each other before. Their acquaintance began only a few days earlier. One night, Anna, who hadn't had social contact in a long time, received a visitor. The young man was Ethan, a 16-year-old boy. Ethan had just moved from Boston to New York with his father, Alistair, and his mother, Jane. Jane had sent Ethan over to greet their new neighbor and bring a small gift. Anna felt a particular fondness for the gentle and well-behaved Ethan. During their conversation, Ethan noticed a few photos of a young girl in Anna's home and curiously asked who she was. Looking sorrowful, Anna told him the girl in the photos was her 8-year-old daughter. It turned out Anna's marriage had hit a rough patch. Her husband had temporarily moved out with their daughter, living elsewhere for the time being. Realizing he had touched on Anna's pain, Ethan quickly changed the subject and asked about her job. When he learned that Anna was a psychologist specializing in counseling teenagers, Ethan's expression grew complicated, as though he had something unspeakable he wanted to confide. But after struggling with himself for a while, he said nothing. Instead, he silently walked to the window and looked toward his own home. The two families lived directly across from each other, and through their windows they could easily see inside each other's houses. Ethan's face grew tense as he stared at his father inside, tears brimming in his eyes. As an experienced psychologist, Anna quickly picked up on Ethan's emotional changes. But since he wasn't willing to say more, she didn't press him. Gently, she told him that when he was ready, he could share his secret with her. Ethan thanked Anna and with some unease excused himself and left. The following evening happened to be Halloween. Children from the neighborhood went door to door trick-or-treating. Since Anna hadn't prepared any candy beforehand, the children became noisy and rowdy, banging wildly on her door. Some mischievous kids even started throwing eggs at Anna's windows. The racket gave Anna a splitting headache. Finally, she mustered her courage to open the door and drive the kids away. But the moment she stepped outside, her agoraphobia suddenly overwhelmed her, and she fainted. When she regained consciousness, Anna found herself lying on her own sofa. Sitting beside her was a blonde woman she didn't recognize. Clearly, this stranger had carried her back inside. Although Anna had never seen this woman before, she instinctively called her Jane because the woman's features resembled Ethan's. That's when Anna realized this must be Ethan's mother, Jane. To show her gratitude, Anna warmly invited Jane to have a drink with her. Over wine and conversation, Anna politely complimented Jane on her beautiful earrings. Jane replied that they had been a gift from her ex-boyfriend. She then returned the courtesy by praising Anna's cat, calling it adorable. Delighted by this, Anna couldn't help but snap a photo of her cat with her phone. As their chat continued, the two women began talking about their children. Jane showed Anna a picture of Ethan as a baby. Anna took the opportunity to ask about Ethan's relationship with his father, Alistair. Jane admitted honestly, Ethan was a well-behaved, good child, but her husband Alistair had a violent temper and an overbearing need for control. His relationship with Ethan was strained. At this point, Jane choked up, but quickly composed herself and forced a change of subject without finishing her thoughts. Anna recalled the tense look in Ethan's eyes the day before when he glanced toward his father. She couldn't help suspecting that Alistair might be abusive, but since Jane was unwilling to elaborate, Anna refrained from pressing further. Jane stayed with Anna until late into the night before taking her leave. Before she left, she casually swapped out one of Anna's decorations, replacing a picture of Anna holding her cat with a cartoon drawing of her and the cat, and gave it to Anna as a gift. The next morning, while Anna was still in bed upstairs, she suddenly heard noises coming from downstairs. Fearing a burglar had broken in, she hurriedly called the police while cautiously heading down to check. It turned out to be a false alarm. The sound was coming from David, a tenant, rummaging through some repair tools. David was a struggling freelance musician who currently rented the basement of Anna's house. He explained to Anna that he had rung the doorbell half an hour earlier, but she had been sleeping so deeply that she didn't hear it, so he had to use his spare key to open her door and come in to look for repair tools. He explained that Alistair, the man across the street, had hired him to fix a water pipe. Since David was financially strapped, he often took odd jobs like this to make ends meet. Anna generally got along well with him, so she didn't mind that he had entered her home without asking. While returning the tools after fixing the pipes at Alistair's house, David noticed that the glass dome above Anna's spiral staircase was covered with dead leaves and dust. He kindly climbed up to the roof to clean it. During the process, he discovered that the old glass dome had developed fine cracks, so he reminded Anna to get it repaired soon. But Anna didn't take his warning seriously. That night, while Anna was soaking in the bathtub, she suddenly heard a woman scream from the house opposite hers. She quickly dried herself off and rushed to the window, just in time to see Jane leaving the house in tears while Alistair stood inside angrily holding a hammer. Since she didn't have Ethan or Jane's phone number, Anna had to call her realtor to get the landline number of the family across the street. When she called, it was Ethan who answered. Anna anxiously asked him what had happened at home, but Ethan, choking back tears, stammered and refused to explain. This only deepened Anna's suspicion that Alistair was abusive. Determined to find evidence so that Jane and Ethan could escape, Anna took out her camera, attached a telephoto lens, and began closely observing the family. The next evening, she saw Jane arguing with someone. Although the wall blocked her view of who Jane was arguing with, it wasn't hard to guess that it was Alistair. Suddenly, Jane staggered backward, a fruit knife stuck in her abdomen. The sight horrified Anna so much that she dropped her camera in shock. Once she regained some composure, she decided to call the police immediately. But in her panic, she couldn't find her cell phone. To make matters worse, her landline mysteriously had no signal. Desperate, Anna rushed to the basement to borrow David's phone, but he wasn't home. She had no choice but to return to her room and continue searching. Luckily, she eventually found her phone under her messy blanket. As soon as she dialed the police and nervously explained the situation, she suddenly saw Jane across the street, covered in blood, collapsed against the window, begging her for help. Fearing that Jane wouldn't survive until the police arrived, Anna made a snap decision to go rescue her. To protect herself from triggering her agoraphobia, she held an umbrella above her as a shield and forced herself outside, slowly making her way toward the house across the street. Although the distance was only a dozen meters, for Anna it felt like crossing an abyss. Just as she reached the middle of the road, a car came speeding by. The headlights blinded her and sent her spiraling into panic. She fainted before she could reach Alistair's house. When she finally woke up, she found herself back home, escorted by 2 police officers. They told her that no murder had taken place in Alistair's house and that his wife Jane was alive and well. Seeing Anna's look of utter disbelief, the officers brought Alistair's family to confront her face to face. To Anna's shock, the Jane before her was not the blonde woman she had met days earlier. Anna became convinced that the real Jane had been murdered by Alistair, and this woman claiming to be Jane was just an imposter brought in to cover up the truth. But to her surprise, the police immediately told her that they had already verified the family's identities. The woman standing before her was indeed Alistair's wife, Jane. Jane herself explained that she had been delayed in Boston by work, so she couldn't move with her husband and son right away. She had only just arrived in New York half an hour earlier. Therefore, it was impossible that Anna had met her days before. Alistair and Ethan both confirmed Jane's statement. Anna was left completely bewildered. The 2 officers began to suspect that she was hallucinating since, in their investigation, they had already found that the medication Anna was taking for her agoraphobia had hallucinogenic side effects. But Anna refused to believe that what she had witnessed with her own eyes was just an illusion. Unfortunately, at the time of the supposed murder, she had been too panicked to press the shutter on her camera and capture photographic evidence. With nothing but her words to go on, the police dismissed her story, leaving Anna helpless and forced to temporarily accept their conclusion. The next morning, after calming down, Anna turned on her computer and searched online for information about Alistair. She discovered a suspicious lead. Not long ago in Boston, Alistair's female assistant had died in a mysterious fall from a building. After her death, Alistair had hastily resigned from his job and moved away with Ethan. Anna instinctively felt that this woman's death might also be linked to Alistair. But the most urgent issue was figuring out the true identity of the blonde woman who had visited her home for drinks a few days earlier. If that woman wasn't Jane, why had she been living in Alistair's house? And, more importantly, was the blonde woman now dead or alive? After much thought, Anna remembered her tenant David. Since David had recently been in Alistair's house to repair the plumbing, perhaps he had seen the blonde woman. She went down to the basement to ask him about it, but once again he wasn't home. Just as she was about to leave, she noticed some letters recently delivered by the postman. To her shock, the envelopes revealed that David was actually an ex-convict currently on parole. At that moment, David returned and realized that Anna had discovered his secret. Agitated, he explained that he had only been jailed for fighting and he wasn't some dangerous criminal. As for the time he had spent fixing the pipes at Alistair's, he'd only seen Alistair and Ethan. He had never encountered any blonde woman. Frustrated and with no new leads, Anna returned to her surveillance of Alistair's family. She snapped dozens of photos but found nothing unusual. However, her spying did not go unnoticed. Jane eventually discovered her behavior and angrily warned Anna to stop or she would call the police. With no choice, Anna reluctantly gave up her watch. 2 days later, one morning, Anna realized her pet cat had gone missing. She tried calling David to see if he had seen the cat, but his phone never went through. Forced to take matters into her own hands, she went to the basement again. Finding David still absent, she let herself into his room to search. To her relief, she found her cat hiding under his bed. But just as she was about to leave with the cat, she noticed something on the nightstand. A single earring that looked very familiar. She quickly remembered it was the exact same earring worn by the blonde woman who had once visited her. That woman had even told Anna that it was a gift from her ex-boyfriend. Why then was the earring now in David's room? Unable to reach David and with her suspicions mounting, Anna decided to confide in Ethan. That afternoon, she waited at her window for him to return from school. When she saw him, she called him over and directly asked whether the current Jane was really his mother. Ethan looked conflicted and admitted he couldn't tell her the truth. Before Anna could press further, Alistair suddenly barged into the house. Without a word, he slapped Ethan hard across the face, then turned on Anna, warning her not to meddle in their affairs. With that, he dragged Ethan away. The incident only reinforced Anna's belief that Alistair was a violent man. That night, while she sat at home trembling with anxiety, Anna received an anonymous email. Attached was a single photograph of herself, asleep in bed. This meant that someone had secretly broken into her bedroom and taken the picture. The photo sent Anna into a panic. She immediately called the police. The same 2 officers who had visited her before came to investigate. They carefully searched the house but found no signs of forced entry. As for the email, they could not trace the IP address. The police began to suspect that Anna had staged the entire thing herself. At that moment, Alistair appeared at her door again, furious. He had just learned from Jane that Anna had been spying on their family. On top of that, he had received a call from a former colleague, warning him that a woman named Anna was investigating him. Convinced she was a mentally unstable lunatic, Alistair confronted Anna, demanding to know what exactly she was trying to do. Anna was left speechless. To defend herself, she showed him the cartoon drawing of her and her cat, signed with the name Jane, which the blonde woman had given her. But Alistair dismissed it, claiming the drawing could have been made by Anna herself. As the two argued, David, who had just returned home, overheard the commotion and came upstairs. Anna quickly asked him to confirm the origin of the earring she had seen on his nightstand. But David insisted the earring belonged to one of his female friends who was here for a one-night stand. According to him, she had spent the night with him a few days earlier and accidentally left the earring behind. David's explanation only convinced the 2 policemen further that Anna had been hallucinating. Yet Anna still insisted everything she said was true. She even went so far as to suspect that David was colluding with Alistair. Growing more agitated, Anna said the only reason she was so persistent was because she wanted to save poor Ethan. She added that if her husband and daughter were here, they would support her actions. At this, both officers exchanged stunned looks. They told Anna that her husband and daughter had died long ago. Their words froze Anna in place. A painful memory slowly resurfaced. She finally recalled that night 1 year earlier on a snowy mountain road. She had been driving with her husband and daughter when her lover called her phone. Her husband, who had long known about the affair but held his silence, grabbed the phone in a fit of anger, intending to speak directly with the other man. Guilty and panicked, Anna tried to snatch the phone back. In that moment of distraction, the car lost control and plunged off a cliff. Her husband and daughter died instantly. Anna survived but was consumed by guilt and self-blame, her mind collapsing under the weight of trauma. Not only did she develop severe agoraphobia, but she also completely repressed the memory of the crash, convincing herself instead that her husband and daughter were still alive, just temporarily living apart from her. Now, as the truth came flooding back, Anna finally realized her mind had been broken all along. She offered a sincere apology to Alistair, David, and the police. Seeing her devastated state, they chose not to press charges for her behavior. The next evening, overwhelmed by despair, Anna decided to end her life. Before doing so, she recorded a farewell message on her phone. Then she opened her photo album, wanting to see her husband and daughter one last time. While scrolling, she stumbled across a photo of her cat, one she had taken the night the blonde woman visited. In the picture, beside the cat, were 2 glasses of red wine. Reflected in one of the glasses was the face of the blonde woman. This meant that the blonde woman truly had existed. Could it be that what she had witnessed over the past few days wasn't a hallucination after all? As Anna's thoughts swirled in confusion, David appeared at her door. He told her he had found a new place to live and would be moving out the next day, just dropping by to say goodbye. Anna, distracted, showed him the photo and zoomed in on the reflection, asking if he recognized the woman. After a long silence, David finally confessed everything. The woman in the photo was not Jane. Her name was Katherine, and she is Alistair's ex-wife and Ethan's biological mother. Anna now remembered when she met Katherine, the woman had never actually introduced herself. Anna had simply assumed she was Jane because of her resemblance to Ethan. Katherine, perhaps deliberately, hadn't corrected her. According to David, Katherine had become addicted to drugs after giving birth to Ethan. Alistair divorced her and took custody of their son. Ever since, Katherine had been chasing after her ex-husband, demanding money to feed her addiction. Her sudden appearance here was almost certainly to extort Alistair again. David explained that he had run into Katherine by chance and spent a night with her. She had personally told him everything then. The earring on his nightstand had, of course, been hers. His frequent absences in recent days were because he was avoiding Katherine, afraid she might cling to him. David added that Alistair had no idea that he and Katherine had once been together. When the police came by the previous night, David hadn't dared to reveal the truth, fearing trouble for himself. Instead, he had lied, saying the earring belonged to a female friend. As for whether Katherine was alive or dead now, David didn't know, nor did he care to find out. After revealing all this, David prepared to leave. But just as he reached the doorway, he was suddenly stabbed in a vital spot and collapsed to the floor. To Anna's shock, the attacker was not Alistair, but the seemingly gentle and pitiable Ethan. Ethan now shed his mask of innocence, revealing a twisted and sinister face. With a mocking tone, he admitted that he had murdered his biological mother, Katherine. He also revealed that he had known all along that Anna was spying on his family. That's why, when committing the murder, he deliberately positioned himself behind a wall to make it look like Alistair was the killer. Ethan further confessed that Alistair's assistant in Boston had also been killed by him, pushed off a building. Alistair's hasty resignation and relocation had in fact been to cover up his son's crimes. The reason Ethan killed both his mother, Katherine, and Alistair's assistant was that he believed neither woman had fulfilled her role as a mother. Anna's suspicions weren't entirely wrong either. Ethan had indeed often been abused by his father, but Alistair's violence wasn't because he was innately cruel. It was because Ethan himself had always been disturbingly unstable. In Ethan's mind, however, the abuse he suffered was entirely due to Katherine's irresponsibility. He therefore grew to loathe all neglectful mothers. After moving here, Ethan soon learned from neighbors that Anna had cheated on her husband and that her affair had led to the deaths of her husband and daughter. From that moment, even before properly meeting her, he had already chosen Anna as his next target. During his first visit to her home, he had secretly stolen her spare key. The disturbing photos of Anna sleeping and the anonymous emails she received, all were his doing. After days of careful observation, Ethan came up with a plan to frame Anna. The knife he had just used to stab David had also been stolen from Anna's house. Once the police discovered David's body, combined with Anna's fragile mental state, they would almost certainly conclude that Anna had killed him in a fit of madness. Gloating, Ethan told Anna that if she didn't want to spend the rest of her life locked away in a psychiatric hospital, the best option was to end her own life immediately. Anna seemed swayed by his words. He even handed her a bottle of sleeping pills he had prepared in advance, urging her to end her life. Believing victory was his, Ethan let down his guard, but at the last second, Anna grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it over his head. She tried to flee, but as she passed David's body, she slipped on the blood and fell. The noise roused David, who, though mortally wounded, summoned his last strength to hold Ethan back, buying Anna time to escape. Tragically, Ethan stabbed David repeatedly, killing him. With nowhere else to run, Anna scrambled up the staircase to the rooftop terrace. Her primal instinct to survive finally shattered her agoraphobia, but Ethan quickly followed and the two fought viciously. In the chaos, Anna remembered David's earlier warning that the glass dome above the staircase was cracked and unstable. She seized the chance, took a deep breath, and hurled Ethan onto the dome. The glass shattered beneath him, sending him plummeting to his death. In the aftermath, the police recovered Katherine's body and confirmed that Ethan had been the murderer. Alistair and his current wife, Jane, were charged with covering up his crimes and faced legal consequences. As for Anna, the ordeal helped her finally confront her past trauma. Her agoraphobia gradually healed, and she resolved to make peace with her past and begin a new life. The Woman in the Window was released in 2021, adapted from the best-selling novel of the same name. The film adaptation left out some crucial details from the book that would have clarified Anna's struggles and Ethan's manipulation. For example, the fact that she was stranded for days after the car crash watching her family die, Ethan's use of the Guess Juana account to trick her into thinking she emailed herself, and her missing conversations with her online friend who is actually Ethan. Still, the movie contains numerous homages to classic masters of suspense. Attentive viewers can easily spot influences from films like Rear Window, Psycho, and Vertigo.